In the modern world, movement is often mistaken for progress. The more we do, the more we feel accomplished, but speed without direction leads nowhere. When life becomes noisy, when thoughts are scattered, and emotions unchecked, clarity disappears. We begin to chase, grasp, and struggle, forgetting that the most profound answers come not in chaos, but in calm. It is in stillness that the fog begins to lift. Inner stillness is not the absence of thought, nor is it the suppression of emotion. It is the ability to observe them without being consumed by them. Like a lake undisturbed by wind, the surface becomes calm and the bottom visible. In that moment, one sees what was always there, not a new path, but a forgotten one. The path reveals itself not because it suddenly appeared, but because you finally stopped to see. Stillness requires practice. It is not attained by accident. Just as a martial artist disciplines the body through repetition, the mind must be trained to settle. Sitting in silence, breathing with awareness, withdrawing attention from distractions, these are not escapes from life, but doorways into deeper understanding. They teach us to distinguish between what is urgent and what is true. Often we ask, "What should I do next?" But that question arises from fear. A more powerful question is, "What is already clear within me that I have been unwilling to hear?" Stillness does not give you a map. It gives you insight. It will not speak in the language of noise and urgency. It speaks in symbols, in intuition, in inner knowing, but only to the one who is willing to listen. The obstacle is not that the way does not exist. The obstacle is that we are too distracted to see it. In stillness, the dust settles. Emotions that once felt like storms become quiet. Thoughts that raced become gentle, and in that space, what once felt hidden becomes obvious. The answer was never far, it was simply buried beneath the layers of mental activity. Stillness is a return to source. It is reconnecting with something older than your thoughts and more stable than your moods. You do not need to force the path open, you need only become quiet enough to recognize where it already is. The world will try to pull you away with temptation, urgency, and fear. But the inner path will only open when you stop trying to push. When you realize that the way forward is not something to be manufactured, but something to be uncovered, a shift occurs. Your energy, once spent on controlling life, becomes available to experience life. You no longer force decisions, you wait, you feel, you move with purpose. This is the power of stillness, not inaction, but intentional action rooted in awareness. In this state, even challenges carry direction. Pain is no longer confusion, it is a signal. Conflicts are not distractions, they are mirrors. The external world reflects the internal one. The quieter you become, the more clearly you hear the subtle instructions life offers. You recognize that nothing needs to be added, only that which is unnecessary must be released. When an obstacle appears, the common response is resistance. We label it as bad, unfortunate, or unfair. But such labeling comes from a limited view, one that sees only the surface, not the substance. An obstacle is not a punishment nor a mistake. It is a message. It carries information about yourself, about your limitations, and about what must grow within you before you can continue. No true progress occurs without friction. The same way the blade becomes sharp only when pressed against the stone, the human spirit is shaped by challenge. An obstacle introduces discomfort, and in that discomfort, truth emerges. You learn where you are still fragile, where you still lack clarity, and where the ego resists reality. It is not the path being blocked, it is your old self being invited to evolve. To encounter no resistance is not a blessing. It is stagnation in disguise. The martial artist who never falls learns nothing about balance. The mind that is never questioned becomes rigid and blind. Obstacles appear not to push you down, but to pull something deeper out of you. They ask you, what will you choose in this moment, fear or discipline, escape or transformation? It is natural to want ease, but ease does not cultivate strength. The tree that grows in the open, protected from wind and storm, may look tall but is hollow inside. The tree that withstands seasons of hardship develops roots that reach deep and branches that stretch wide. In the same way, a person who embraces obstacles builds inner resilience. They are not easily moved by external events. An obstacle is a mirror. It reflects the parts of you that are reactive, impatient, insecure, or attached. When you meet this mirror with awareness instead of avoidance, you gain insight. The very thing you wanted to avoid becomes your greatest teacher. It reveals the gap between who you are and who you have the potential to be. Growth happens in that gap, not outside it. Many people ask for a breakthrough, but resist the pressure that makes it possible. Pressure is not the enemy, it is the force that tests structure and reveals weakness. It is the discipline of the obstacle that teaches you whether your foundation is real or imagined. In that testing, refinement happens. You don't become stronger by wishing. You become stronger by facing what challenges you. Each time an obstacle arises, there is a decision: collapse into frustration or rise into awareness. The choice determines whether the obstacle becomes a wall or a doorway. If you fight it blindly, it becomes a wall. If you study it carefully, it becomes a doorway. The shift is not in the obstacle, it is in your perception, in your willingness to learn. The longer you live, the more you realize that some of your greatest lessons came wrapped in difficulty. They did not feel like blessings when they arrived. They felt like burdens, but those burdens shaped you. They stripped away illusions, clarified values, and demanded focus. The obstacle, then, is not the interruption of the path, it is the very shaping of the path itself. Faith is often misunderstood as a passive state, something one possesses quietly in the background, hoping for things to improve. But true faith is not idle. It is not soft. It does not wait endlessly for signs while doing nothing. Real faith is movement. It is the choice to step forward even when the full path is not yet visible. To believe is not merely to think differently, it is to live differently. There is a kind of comfort in sitting and wishing. It feels safe to imagine outcomes while remaining still, but that safety is an illusion. Without aligned action, faith turns into fantasy. If belief does not flow into behavior, it remains incomplete. The one who says, "I believe things will change," must also ask, what am I doing to meet that change halfway? In the world of discipline and practice, faith manifests as commitment. You train not because you are already strong, but because you trust that strength will come. You rise early not because the results are immediate, but because you believe the effort has meaning. Each repetition is an act of faith. Each return to the mat is a declaration that growth is happening even when unseen. True faith is not blind. It sees clearly the difficulties ahead and yet still chooses to move. It knows there may be failure, discomfort, or delay, and it walks forward anyway. This kind of faith is fierce. It does not hide behind excuses or wait for perfect timing. It acts not because everything is certain, but because something deep within says, "Keep going." Many people say they are waiting on life, but in truth, life is waiting on them. Waiting without preparation is hesitation disguised as patience. But when faith is real, it pushes you to prepare, to train, to show up consistently even when no one is watching. It compels you to become the person who is ready for the opportunity before it arrives. In faith, you do not wait for confidence to act, you act, and confidence is built through the action itself. The mind may say, "I'm not ready," but faith answers, "Walk anyway." In this way, you grow beyond your limitations not by defeating them in thought, but by meeting them in motion. Faith does not remove fear, it moves through fear. The universe, the world, or the unseen, however one names it, does not respond to empty promises. It responds to alignment. When your thoughts, intentions, and actions move in the same direction, the world begins to reflect that movement. Not instantly, not always as expected, but undeniably, the external begins to match the internal when faith is made visible through consistent doing. Faith does not mean a network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. Many people search for the perfect path before they take the first step. They wait for signs, for certainty, for ideal conditions. But life does not reveal the full journey in advance. The forest does not show the trail until you enter it. The stone does not appear underfoot until you begin to move. The way forward does not exist as a fixed road, it is made visible through the act of walking. The one who stands still waiting for clarity will eventually become lost in thought. Over-planning becomes hesitation. Doubt grows louder the longer you listen to it. But when you begin to move even with small steps, even with incomplete knowledge, something changes. Movement generates energy. Energy gives rise to direction. And direction, once followed with attention, becomes the way. To walk the path is not to always know where it leads, but to remain present with each step. In this presence, you begin to notice subtle things, the rhythm of your breath, the feel of the ground, the way your mind reacts to uncertainty. This awareness becomes your guide. The path is not somewhere out there, it is formed through your relationship with the present moment. There will be moments when you stumble, when the path feels unclear again, when fatigue visits or fear whispers that you've made a mistake. But the discipline is to keep walking, not blindly, but attentively. You learn not just from reaching goals, but from how you walk, from how you respond to detours and delays. The process teaches more than the destination ever could. Walking the path transforms you. It tests your focus, your consistency, your willingness to face discomfort. Each obstacle reshapes your posture. Each choice sharpens your vision. You are not the same person after 100 mindful steps. You may look the same, but something internal has shifted. The path changes you because you are creating it through action, not waiting for it to appear whole. Those who only dream of the path speak often and move little, but dreams unaccompanied by discipline fade quickly. A single, deliberate action carries more truth than 1,000 intentions left unfulfilled. You don't need to know all the answers before beginning. What you need is the courage to take one clear step and observe where it leads. Often, it is only after you have walked a distance that you can turn around and see the shape of the path you have made. What once seemed like chance or mistake is understood as necessary. The moments of uncertainty, the unexpected turns, even the pauses, they all become part of something coherent when seen from later on. But that clarity only comes to the one who walks. The path cannot be borrowed and it cannot be copied. What works for another may not work for you. Comparison distracts. Authentic progress begins when you listen inwardly and respond outwardly. It is your breath, your discipline, your decision to rise again that carves the way forward. The map is not found, it is drawn by your own consistent movement. There is a natural power that arises when your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in the same direction. This is alignment. It is not loud, nor does it seek attention, but it brings with it a quiet strength, a sense of rightness, where effort feels meaningful and movement feels supported. In alignment, resistance fades, and what once felt difficult begins to unfold with ease. Disorder comes when the mind wants one thing, the body does another, and the heart remains unconvinced. Such inner conflict creates confusion, fatigue, and doubt. You may work hard but feel drained. You may take action but sense no progress. Without alignment, even the strongest push leads nowhere. Like a boat rowing against its own anchor, effort without unity leads only to frustration. To live in alignment means to clarify what you value, to become honest about what you feel, and to act in ways that reflect both. It requires self-inquiry, not to judge, but to observe. What do you say you want, and what do your habits reveal? What intention do you carry, and how do your choices support or contradict it? Alignment begins where honesty begins. In martial arts, alignment is physical first. The body must be structured correctly. But over time, the principle deepens. Alignment becomes a way of being. You learn to align your breath with movement, your intention with motion, your discipline with purpose. This harmony creates flow. Movements no longer fight each other. Energy circulates smoothly, like water finding its natural path. Flow is not the absence of challenge, it is the absence of inner contradiction. It does not mean the path is easy, but that your energy is not wasted in fighting yourself. There is a clarity to action, a precision to effort, and a grace in how you navigate difficulty. Others may see it as luck or talent, but it is alignment cultivated through awareness and choice. To find alignment, sometimes things must be released. A role, a belief, a habit, a desire that no longer serves your direction. Clinging creates tension. And where there is tension, flow cannot exist. Letting go is not weakness, it is refinement. It is the discipline of choosing what truly matters over what merely distracts. Alignment is a form of discipline. It is not always comfortable because it demands consistency. It asks that your actions match your words, that your private self reflect your public self, that your path be walked with integrity. But with this discipline comes a sense of inner peace, not because life becomes easier, but because you no longer betray your own direction. In this state, decisions become clearer, effort becomes lighter. Even in moments of difficulty, there is a current beneath your feet. You begin to move not in opposition to life, but with it. Like a river flowing around stones, you adapt without resistance, guided not by force, but by the quiet intelligence of alignment within. Holding on is instinctive. The mind clings to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves. It clings to expectations, to control, to identity. But the paradox is clear. The tighter you hold, the less space there is to receive anything new. A closed fist cannot take in what life offers. Only when you release your grip does your hand become open again. Letting go is not weakness. It is not passivity or giving up. It is a conscious act of clearing. You do not let go because you are defeated. You let go because you recognize what no longer belongs. Just as the body exhales to make room for the next breath, life requires a cycle of release to remain in balance. You must create space before anything meaningful can enter. Often, people ask why things do not change, why progress feels blocked. But they carry so much old pain, unresolved fears, rigid beliefs that there is no room for transformation. Letting go is the process of clearing that internal clutter, not by force, but through awareness. You observe what weighs you down and choose to release it, little by little. There is a subtle kind of pride in always trying to control. It gives a false sense of power, but control is fragile. The moment life moves outside your plan, that structure begins to crack. Letting go is the deeper strength. It is the trust that you can navigate what comes without needing to grip every outcome. It is a shift from resistance to receptivity. Letting go of the past does not erase what happened. It means you no longer carry it into the present moment. You are no longer living in reaction to a memory, but in connection to what is here now. The past can inform you, but it should not imprison you. When you let go of what you thought should have been, you open to what can still become. The same principle applies to fear. Fear often builds its home in the mind through imagined loss. But what is fear if not the refusal to release control? You fear losing only because you believe you must hold tightly. But many things you hold onto, roles, relationships, identities, were never meant to be permanent. Letting go of them does not leave you with less, it makes room for truth. Receiving is not passive, it is a skill, and that skill requires space. Just as silence is needed to hear, emptiness is needed to fill. You cannot receive clarity if your mind is noisy. You cannot receive peace if your heart is cluttered. Letting go is the active preparation for receiving not just from the world, but from within yourself. This is why disciplines of stillness, breath, and simplicity are so important. They train the mind to release, the body to soften, and the spirit to open. In that openness, you begin to notice what was always around you but went unseen. Letting go does not mean you lose yourself. It means you return to what is essential. And from that place, life begins to respond differently for a